Hare Krishna, Ishwar, you need to increase. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I suggest we use the other mic. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Better. Hare Krishna. Sorry for the delay. Too many things happening. And to make things interesting, internet completely froze, so we couldn't upload the PowerPoint for half an hour. All right, so today, what we are going to do is we'll quickly go through the slides which we did last week, just to give us a bit of a recap. I won't spend much time on these slides, but it'll give us a good refresher before we go into more details about Vedic Cosmology. So today is session 4. I'll try to add more details to the topics that we discussed last week. So we'll be using, or rather reusing, most of the slides we did last week. I received a lot of questions on some of the aspects, so I'm going to spend more time on that. Now, before we get started, if I can get your attention to the whiteboard here. So as I was saying, 5th canto, Vedic Cosmology, the way how things are set up, or the way how the flow goes is, initially, Bhumandala is introduced, so that is this one single plane, the 7th planetary system. So we have one single plane, which is Bhumandala. And then the Saptadvipa, or the 7 different dvipas, or the islands, they are introduced. After that, Sumeru mountain is described, followed by the descent of Mother Ganga. Upon falling on the top of Mount Sumeru, she then takes 4 different branches, inundating the 4 different varshas of Jambudvipa, which are on the fringes of Jambudvipa, so to speak. And then the description about the remaining islands is given. And then in the 7th island called Pushkara Dvipa, we have the chariot wheel of sun god being placed there. And as we were discussing last week, there is a mountain in the middle of Pushkara Dvipa called Manasotra mountain. We'll be going through the slides shortly. So the wheel of the sun god's chariot is placed on Manasotra mountain, and then it goes around. There were some questions which devotees asked. I'll come to that later. So then the description of sun god's chariot is given, and the movement of the chariot of sun god around Mount Sumeru is given. Then the description about the higher planetary system, all the way up to Dhruvaloka, and then even beyond Maharjanas Tapas Satya, it's given. Then the description of Shishumara is given, and then the description goes below Bhumandala, which is the 7 lower planetary systems, and then it concludes with hellish planets. So this is how the flow of 5th canto of Vedic Cosmology is given. So first is one single Bhumandala, then the different dvipas, the centralmost dvipa, Jambudvipa, Mount Sumeru, Mother Ganga, tributaries, remaining islands of Bhumandala, then sun god, movement of sun, then in the vertical, all the higher planetary systems from, we have Moon, then the Nakshatras, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, then the Saptarishis, Dhruva planet, Maharjanas, Tapasatya, then the Shishumara, which is the total vertical structure, and then the subterranean planetary system, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala. Then after that, the description of hellish planets is given. So that's how the whole flow of fifth canto of Vedic Cosmology is given. So if I can get your attention to slide 2. As I said, I'm just going to quickly skim through these slides before we come and spend more time on the vertical structure of the universe. So Bhumandala, we describe how there are 14 planetary systems. Bhumandala is the 7th planetary system. It has 7 different islands with Mount Sumeru. So that's what we see in slide 2. Then in 3, the description of the different varshas, the different divisions of Jambudvipa, it's given. The varsha where we are located is there in Bharatvarsha. Bharatvarsha has also got 9 different divisions called Kandas. We live in Bharata Kanda. So that's slide 3. Slide 4 discusses about the presiding deities and the key inhabitants. The one that's of particular interest for us is Bharatavarsha. Presiding deity is Naranarayana Rishi. And the key inhabitant is Narada Muni. This is just the summary. Slide 5 is just the summary of the different varshas, the key inhabitants, and the presiding deities. And also gives the section of the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where you can go through the different prayers that's been offered by these key inhabitants in the respective varsha. Mount Sumeru is introduced. So this is the top of Mount Sumeru. In the middle we have Lord Brahma in a place called Manavati or Brahmapuri, surrounded by 8 different demigods who are the different guardians of the universe. So this is their heavenly resort. Slide 8 discusses about the mountains, series of mountains around Mount Sumeru. So we have these 4 different pairs of mountains surrounding Mount Sumeru on all directions, followed by a huge mountain that is placed on a second layer in each of the different directions, one on each side, followed by a series of 20 different mountains together. They are called as Kesharachala. That's of interest to us because when Mother Ganga, she lands in Brahmapuri and she takes 4 different branches. The one that goes south, inundating Bharatavarsha, she is called as Alaknanda. Alaknanda, when she falls from Mount Sumeru, she falls straight into Kesharachala. We'll see that shortly. So slide 9 is the vertical cross-section, or vertical section of the universe, the cross-section there, or rather the vertical section, sorry. So here we have the 2 huge mountains that are present on both sides called Mount Lokaloka. As we were discussing, this is slide 9. Lokaloka mountain divides or demarcates the part of the universe that's habitable versus those which was abandoned totally by people because there is no sunlight. So Lokaloka mountain, they are present beyond the 7 different islands of Bhumandala, and they extend all the way up to Dhruvaloka. So sun's rays are limited within these boundaries of Lokaloka mountain as far as sideways is concerned. But sun is the only source of light. Srila Prabhupada explains in Srimad Bhagavatam how the only source of light is in this universe is sun. All the different planets, they borrow the light from sun. And the source of light for sun is the Brahman effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And the source of Brahman effulgence is Krishna himself. Okay, so Brahmanasya pratistaham, Krishna says that. So Brahmano hi pratistaham. Krishna is the basis of impersonal Brahman. So then that brings us to slide 10. So slide 10 discusses about the descent of Mother Ganga. We were discussing how Mother Ganga, she descended from the causal ocean through the hole that was made by the big foot of Vamanadev's lotus feet, and then through that hole she then seeps in, comes to Dhruvaloka, then Saptarishi planets, moon planet carried by billions of airplanes by different demigods, and then she falls on Mount Sumeru, and then she divides into 4 branches, inundating the 4 different bordering varshas of Jambudvipa. So this is where she falls. So slide 12, if you see, you will see Mother Ganga falling on Brahmapuri, dividing. Alaknanda, Sita, Bhadra and Chakshu. The one which we get in India, that's from Alaknanda, the one on the southern side. So this is slide 12. Slide 13, you can see the significance of Kesharachala mountain here. So if you see here the river, Mother Ganga, she falls on Brahmapuri, then she falls on Kesharachala in the southern side, then she falls directly from Kesharachala mountain, jumping on top of the peak of Mount Nishada, from there to Hemakuta and then Himalaya, then she comes to the plains of Bharatavarsha inundating, and then she goes and joins the saltwater ocean surrounding Jambudvipa. Likewise, you see Sita, Bhadra and Chakshu. They are taking similar paths on their respective sides, inundating just the Varsha on the fringe or on the border, and then they go and meet the saltwater ocean in their respective side. Slide 14 clarifies our position in, or when I say our position, I mean the position of planet Earth in relation to Jambudvipa. So slide 14, if you see, there is Mount Sumeru in the middle, and then you have the different Varshas. The bottommost Varsha is called Bharatavarsha. In that, there are 9 divisions. The 9th division touching saltwater ocean, it's called Bharatakanda. That is planet Earth. So we are very, very tiny. We don't even constitute one whole Varsha. We are just one tiny, 1/9 of one of the Varshas of Jambudvipa. So that's how tiny we are, or rather our planet is. So that's slide 14. It's important that we understand that, because it's very easy to get confused with the usage of the different terms, especially Varshas. And last week also in slide 14, we were discussing the glories of Bharatavarsha extolled by the different demigods we were discussing. Slide 15, it's just the aerial view of Bhumandala. So you have Mount Sumeru in the center, followed by, or rather placed on top of Jambudvipa, which is the centralmost island surrounded by saltwater ocean. Then you have Plakshadvipa, so on and so forth, which is surrounded by different types of ocean. You will see there, like sugarcane juice, it's given. Then you have Shalmali Dvipa, liquor, so on and so forth. It goes like that. Kushadvipa, Kraunchadvipa, Plakshadvipa, like that. So this is slide 15. 16, it gives a more detailed description about each one of these different islands of Saptadvipa or Bhumandala. And it also tells about the nature of each one of the ocean, or the ingredients of each one of the ocean. So if you see the ocean surrounding Jambudvipa, that's saltwater ocean. This is slide 16. Likewise, Plakshadvipa surrounded by sugarcane juice. It goes all the way. And we see in Pushkara Dvipa, where you see the different numbering, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pushkara Dvipa is given a lot of importance as far as the 5th canto is concerned, because it supports the chariot wheel of Sun God. So Sun God's chariot wheel, you can see it's going on top of Mount Manasotra. Manasotra mountain also hosts the residences of 4 different demigods called by different names. Here you can see Devadani, Samyamani, Nimlochani and Vibhavari, about of Indra, Yamaraj, Varuna and Moon. They play a significant role also when it comes to understanding about the movement of sun. So you will see there. So this is slide 16. Slide 17, if you see, it gives a bit more description. It's the same one, but the focus is given more on the Manasotra mountain. You see there, the 7th island where sun is positioned immediately surrounding Pushkara Dvipa. So the Manasotra mountain is in Pushkara Dvipa. Pushkara Dvipa is surrounded by freshwater ocean. After that you have the golden land that's given. It is so bright, whatever that goes there gets lost. So nobody lives there in golden land. Kanchana Bhumi it's called. And immediately surrounding the golden land, which is given as the golden circle here, is this mountain called Lokaloka. As we said, Lokaloka mountain is based in Bhumandala, but it extends all the way to Dhruvaloka and blocking the light of the sun from going beyond its border. So that's Lokaloka mountain. So slide 18, again, vertical structure. So as we keep going back and forth, we'll get a bit more clarity as we get used to each one of these terms, and even in terms of the coordinates of each one of these different islands and planets. So this is this slide 19. Again, it's a very simple illustration about the different aspects of Bhumandala. So you can see Aloka Varsha here, pole star, how it is positioned, like a cylinder that's given, that is Lokalaka mountain, that's the surrounding you can actually see. And then you have the golden land, everything that's there, and universal shell, that's the outermost covering. Now Lokalaka mountain, it divides the whole Bhumandala into two portions, the place which is habitable, called Loka, and place which is uninhabitable, which is Aloka Varsha. Aloka Varsha is the place where nobody lives. So that's slide 19. 20. On top of Pushkara Dvipa, you also have the different elephants. On top of the Lokalaka mountain, actually, them guarding. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is also there. And he is also protecting the inhabitants of the entire Bhumandala. So there are descriptions given. If you read 5th canto, you will see the details there. 21, that brings us to the interesting topic, movement of sun. So as you can see in slide 21, Manasotara mountain, it's very, very tiny. Above Manasotara mountain is about for about 50,000 yojanas. Manasotara mountain's height is about 10,000 yojanas. 50,000 yojanas above Manasotara mountain is where the sun god's chariot wheel is placed. So as we were discussing, on top of Manasotara mountain is a thick layer, like a flat road made of wind, on which the sun god's chariot travels. So that's the sun god's chariot wheel, and we were discussing how there are two axles. One axle is connected to the Mount of Sumeru, and another axle is actually connected. So you see axis 2 connected to Dhruvaloka. So this is how sun god's chariot wheel is positioned. One other important observation in terms of our understanding for Bhumandala, we were discussing how Bhumandala has a very, it's not a flat surface, but it's a terraced structure rather, which means as you go from the center, more and more and more, the surface of Bhumandala becomes very, very slopy, as you can see. So Manasotara mountain, if you see the position of Sumeru, it's on a very high ground compared to where Manasotara mountain is. So this is slide 21. 22, it just gives a description about oil grinding machine, because that's the analogy which Shukadeva Goswami uses to make us understand about how sun god's chariot is being supported by two axles, exactly same as how it's given in slide 22, how an oil grinding machine is actually supported by these different axles. 23, it's a very simple structure, but it will help us in understanding about the movement of sun. So if you look at slide 23, it just gives one big dark circular ring. That's Manasotara mountain, and you see sun god's chariot wheel. It's actually going on clockwise movement, going across each one of the different heavenly residences of these four demigods. Somebody asked me this question, how long does it take for, if you look at the board here, so somebody was asking me the question, how long does it take for sun god's chariot wheel or sun god's chariot to go around Mount Sumeru? Because last week we were discussing about how sun god, he takes one full year to cover the different signs of zodiac. There were 12 signs of zodiac, so we were discussing. Okay, before we go into zodiac, zodiac is the path that's been traversed by the sun god's chariot wheel. And as the sun god travels there, he comes across these constellations which are grouped in a certain way to form a certain shape. Like we were discussing, like Leo, they look like lion, actually. Likewise, you have Scorpio, they look like scorpion. So each of these different zodiac signs, they are just a group of luminaries that form a certain shape, and sun god actually takes one whole month to traverse that region. Likewise, he takes one month for each one of those 12 zodiac signs. So we were discussing for the sun god to traverse through each one of those 12, or for all the 12, signs of the zodiac, he takes 1 full year. So does that mean, this is the question that was asked. I think Ishwar, you asked that question. So question is, does that mean sun god takes 1 full year to go around Mount Sumeru? Just once. Sun god takes 1 day to go around Mount Sumeru. We'll come to that calculation shortly. Now, in order for us to understand about the movement of sun, likewise, now before we go to the slides further, I'll just set the base rules clear. The planet sun or sun god's chariot wheel, it takes 24 hours to actually, if it leaves from one point, it takes 24 hours to go around 1 full circle. That's how long it takes. Now, as far as the orbit of sun, planet, moon, as well as the other constellations are concerned, the one fundamental understanding we need to go with when we approach this topic is, how are the orbits laid out for each one of these planets? Okay, so the first thing is, as we were discussing, we were touching on that, how above Bhumandala, we have the different planetary systems. We were discussing how there is, moon, we have the nakshatras, likewise different Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, so on. And each one of them, they go around, keeping Dhruva as the pivot, they keep going around and round and round, circumambulating Dhruvaloka, each one of them. Srila Prabhupada gives this description or an analogy saying that this whole structure with Dhruvaloka as the pivot and each one of these different luminaries going around, it's like a huge, gigantic chandelier. Like we have a beautiful chandelier here in Prabhupada's altar. It's like that. So you have one end of the chandelier being held there, which is Dhruvaloka. And from there, there are these different ropes that's actually given, to which each of these different luminaries are attached to. So when you have a focal point there, or when you have a pivot there, and you have each of these different planetary objects that are connected to that through prana that's given. It's actually one type of wind. That's actually the rope that's connecting Dhruvaloka to these different planets. So keeping that as the pivot, each one of them, they go around. Now, there are at least 3 different motions that's here, which is of interest for us. One is keeping Dhruvaloka in center or the pivot. There is a rotation of one orbit called Kala Chakra. That is called as the time wheel. Okay, so there is one motion which is keeping Dhruvaloka as the pivot, and it is going around and round and round. Now, in this Kala Chakra, you can call this as one track. I think that's the word I was searching for. Okay, so there is one track which is keeping Dhruvaloka as the pivot, and there is one track in which there are luminaries going around. For example, the 28 different nakshatras headed by Abhijit, they are mounted on Kala Chakra, so they just go with whichever way time wheel rotates, they just go with that speed. They don't, in other words, they don't have any independent motion at all. Okay, it's like a conveyor belt. Okay, you just go there, but you can't move on a conveyor belt. Let's assume that way. You are just stuck in one position. Whatever the speed of the conveyor belt is, you just go based on that. So the stars, they don't have any independent motion. All the 28 different constellations headed by Abhijit, we were discussing about how moon, he goes and spends in each one of those nakshatras or lunar houses one single day. So in 1 month, moon covers all the 28 different constellations we were discussing last week. So moon spends one day in each one of those different 28 stars. So these 28 stars, they are just mounted on Kala Chakra. They don't have an independent motion and they are stuck there. Kala Chakra, the way how it actually rotates, they just go with that flow. That's all. Okay, so you have this one particular track. Track means like a racing track, you can see, you can keep, okay. So this is on one level. You can imagine it's on one height. Okay, it's going this way. Now, there are at least 2 different heavenly objects or celestial bodies that are of interest here. One is that of sun. Sun is also going around If you look at the board, sun is also going around Mount Sumeru, so it also has a circular motion. This is sun's orbit, if you like, as much as moon has its orbit and as much as each of the different nakshatras have their orbit. As I said, they're just mounted in a predefined path that's given in a predefined speed, Kala Chakra. They're just mounted on that, and that just keeps rotating. And whoever goes there, they just keep going with that speed. So all the 28 nakshatras, they are stuck in Kala Chakra and they don't have any independent motion and they go. However, if you take sun has also got one end connected to Dhruvaloka. So for sun also, just like the nakshatras, the pivot is still Dhruvaloka. For that matter, every planet has got a Dhruvaloka as their pivot. Pivot means that's the central point. And everything happens around Dhruvaloka. Okay? So above that we have Maharjanas Tapasatya, but whatever planets that comes below Dhruvaloka, they keep Dhruvaloka as their support. From there, they then go around. Okay? So you can understand this to be like a merry-go-round. If you have seen in some, some fair, some festival. If you go to Canberra, you see a beautiful ones. I think I can use that example. Thank you, Krishna. So if you take a merry-go-round, in merry-go-round you will have different poles supporting different horses. Okay? Now, if you go and sit on one horse, your position is pretty much stuck. You can't move anywhere. You are just stuck. How much ever speed the horse goes, that's your speed. Understand? That's the position of the different nakshatras. So they are also connected to one place, but their position is fixed. And the whole merry-go-round goes around a fulcrum. It just goes around like that way. And whatever speed merry-go-round goes, horse speed is also same way. Nakshatras, they travel that way. Understand? Now, sun also is attached to Dhruva, Loka, through prana, wind. Okay? It's a special type of wind that is like a rope. That's acting as a rope. That's the axle. One axle we actually were discussing. So it is holding, sun planet is also, or sun's chariot wheel is also holding Dhruva planet as one end, or the focal point. This is also going around Dhruva planet, but unlike the different nakshatras that are going with the speed of Kala Chakra, sun is having an independent motion, even though it is sharing the same center. Okay, it's exactly like, let us say, in the merry-go-round example, somehow you come up with a provision wherein you have a rope that's tied on the same fulcrum around which the whole merry-go-round is going. But in addition to that speed, you can actually have an independent motion. You are not stuck to a horse, but you have an independent motion. You can even go faster, for example, that way. So sun, it is also attached to Dhruvaloka, but sun's motion is independent. It is different to Kala Chakra's motion. Okay, so that's the second movement. Third independent motion is by moon. Just like how sun is moving, moon is also moving independently. Otherwise, if you don't reconcile it this way, then you cannot actually understand how, let us say, if all the luminaries, moon, as well as the sun, they are stuck to the same Kala Chakra, how can one cross the other? Do you understand? How can moon possibly cross constellation if they are also stuck? It's like, in the merry-go-round example, let us say I'm sitting in a horse. How can I possibly cross, another horse that's there during the whole motion? It's not possible. I'm stuck in my position. So the position, the movement of sun is independent of the different constellations. The movement of moon is also independent of the different constellations. Understand? That is when it will be possible that moon, when it is actually going, in addition to it moving independently, it can also cross a certain number of stars in a certain duration. And same is applicable for sun as well. Okay. Now, interestingly, between the speed of the sun and that of the moon, technically speaking, sun actually travels faster than moon. Sun actually travels much more faster than moon. We'll come to that shortly, why still moon is actually taking much lesser duration to cross the constellation than that of sun. We were discussing sun is actually crossing the constellation. It takes like one whole month to cross one sign of a zodiac or one zodiac constellation, for example. Whereas if you take moon, last week I was discussing, just to keep your understanding simple, because I didn't want to introduce too many details there, it will be confusing. First I was introducing the topic, now I'm trying to go to a little bit more detail. Last week, for sake of understanding, I said, as far as nakshatras are concerned, you understand it just in relation to moon. As far as zodiac is concerned, you just understand it in relation to sun. But actually, you can also calculate how much time moon takes to go past each one of these different zodiac signs. I'll try to simplify that by this slide. I hope it will shed some light. So if you go to slide 23A, there are like 6 different discs you can see here. What's of interest to us is, even if you can understand the first 3 or even first 2, you'll pretty much like understand the motion of different celestial bodies here. Okay, so the first point here to understand is, so this circle that's actually given, you consider that as a playground. That's an analogy given. I've taken it from Bhagavata Cosmology book. So in this, so there is a playground here, there is a playground here, and in that there are 3 boys, boy 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so there are 3 boys who are starting the race. It's the same circular playground. Each one is going on your mark, get set, go. So the middle guy, he is boy number 1, the one below is 2, and the one above is 3. So it's in the order 3, 1, 2. Okay, if you can see. Now in this one, I tried to zoom in more, but it lost resolution. That's the best I could do with my mobile. Okay, but you'll get the idea here. So there's a playground here. There are 3 boys, boy 3, then 2, then 1. Okay, this is the descending order in which it's actually given. So 3 is at the top, boy 1. So this is, I'm talking about there are 6 circles here. I'm talking about the top left, which is the first one. Okay, so there is boy 1. In the middle, there is 3 who is above, and there is 2 below. And all 3 are starting a race at the same time. Okay. Now, all 3 are starting at the same time. However, when at the end of one round, so the second picture, if you see, this is the result at the end of one round. Okay, it's the same time. So on your mark, get set, go. So then everyone is running. You keep boy 1's speed as the reference. Okay. So boy 1, when he finished the first round, if you see where third boy, which is the one at the top, he is actually lacking behind. Can you see? And if you see the one below, who is boy 2, he is also lacking behind, but very slightly, not much. Can you see that? So this will be more evident if you look at the third picture, which is from the left side, second one. Okay, so that says playground after 2 rounds. If you look at 2 rounds, the difference in speed is more evident. As I said, boy 1 is the reference point for us. So we are just going in keeping in reference the speed of boy 1. So in the first picture, boy 1, 2, 3, all 3 of them, they start at the same time, go. At the time when boy 1 finished 1 round, boy 3 is still yet to finish that first round, and boy 2, who is about to finish, but he is starting to lag behind slightly, which is more evident in the third picture, which is the second one in the left side. Okay, so the middle picture, there is 2 columns if you like. So this is in the first column, second picture. So that's the result at the end of 2 rounds. So at the end of 2 rounds, if you see, boy 1, he is finished now, second round. Boy 2, if you see, he's again lagging more. Okay, so this is end of 1 round. At the end of 2 rounds, he's lagging even more. You can see there. But if you see boy 2, he is also lagging more, but not as much as the other boy, not as much as boy 3. But you can see slowly, he is also lagging behind in relation to boy 1. So if you see, likewise, the fourth picture, it's actually given, this is after 10 rounds. Interestingly, after 10 rounds, if you see, so if you see the playground, so boy 2, or rather boy 3, he is in that position at the end of 2 rounds. Likewise, third round, when it finished, he'll be there. Fourth round, he'll be there. Likewise, he is going. So at the end of 10 rounds, boy 3 is actually matching boy 1, but he has run only 9 rounds. If you understand what I mean. You understand? Now, this is how it's happening. Meanwhile, what's happening for boy 2 is he has actually still lacking, but he's almost finishing. He hasn't, he lost only a certain amount of distance behind the boy 1, but he's still in 10th round now. He hasn't finished the 10th round yet, but he still has a certain distance to complete. Whereas boy 3, if you see, at the end of 10 rounds, he's matching the same position as boy 1. However, he's one whole round short. Okay, it's like failing in an exam and starting in fresh with the next batch of students. The same year in your uni, it's like that. Now, why is this analogy important? If you understand this simple analogy, you will understand the relative motion of Kala Chakra, Sun, as well as Moon. Here, boy 1 is Kala Chakra. That's the reference point in terms of speed. Now, in relative speed, if you see, and boy 3 is Moon, and boy 2, surprise, surprise, is Sun. So, Sun is almost matching the speed of Kala Chakra. But actually, if you see Moon is pretty spaced out compared to Sun. It cannot cope up, and it's going backward. But the beauty of this backward motion, called a retrograde motion, is even though it's actually lacking behind, it's still covering a lot of distance. Can you see that? So from here to there, it's actually going back. Then in the next round, it would have gone there. Next round, it would have gone there. Can you understand what it's doing? It's covering one zodiac. Every single time it actually goes back. Every single time it stays back. Whereas for Sun, it has to catch up because, mind you, zodiac is also running with boy 1. So Sun has to, it's almost going nick to nick. So for Sun to really cross boy 1, it has to work really, really hard, so many times. 30 attempts it has to do in order to cover one zodiac sign, which Moon is coolly doing so easily. Simply because it is actually going much more slow. Understand? This is the idea. And to explain this, what Shukadeva Goswami, he uses another beautiful analogy. He says, if you take a potter's wheel, in India, if you see, there will be a huge wheel which is mounted to the ground. And in the center of that wheel, they would put a lump of clay. And then they'll rotate the wheel. Okay, and then with the applying pressure, they would then make a pot. This is how you might have seen in Bangladesh as well. Very common. Especially in Bengal also you will see. They still use it actually that way. Now, Shukadeva Goswami's analogy is, in that wheel, if you take an ant, somehow getting on top of that wheel, and suddenly the potter starts to rotate the wheel. Now the wheel will be going in much more faster speed than ant is also moving slowly. But depending on the speed of the wheel, suddenly ant will be in that position, this position, different position. Do you understand? Even though ant is not moving, but the resultant of both its movement as well as the potter's wheel makes it as if he's actually going back. Now, this point is very important because Parishit Maharaj, he picks up this point. Sometimes I was thinking, 5th canto means it must be almost 3 days over. By now, Parishit Maharaj is still very, very attentively asking for us. Okay? He's going back to Godhead. He has no problem. But I was thinking how carefully he's hearing and he's asking even technical question. So during the narration of this cosmology of our universe, Shukadeva Goswami says, so sun, sometimes it goes around keeping Mount Sumeru to its right, and sometimes it keeps Mount Sumeru to his left. And then Parishit Maharaj is confused here, because to keep someone in right means, like for example, if you take Tulsi Maharani, okay? Normally Vedic etiquette is you always go round in a clockwise direction. Clockwise is auspicious, anti-clockwise is inauspicious. Okay, so you always go clockwise only. Anywhere you always go clockwise. Okay, circumambulation, it's always clockwise. You beat around a devotee, around Krishna, around a temple, anywhere you go to South India, you'll see the arrows pointing in the different direction. Or rather, this way, clockwise. So you always go clockwise. You go around Yagya Kunda, it's clockwise everywhere. So sun also is going clockwise only. If you see, this is clockwise. If you look from top, this is clockwise. Even though sun is going clockwise, clockwise means it is keeping, you always keep the object of worship to your right. That's what it means. Understand when you circumambulate anything. But Shukadeva Goswami says, so sun simultaneously keeps Mount Sumeru to his right as well as to his left. Left means you are going in the opposite direction actually. Only if you go anti-clockwise, you will keep Mount Sumeru to your left. How can sun simultaneously keep Sumeru both clockwise as well as, or to his right as well as to his left? That's the question of Parishit Maharaj. Now, let me bring your attention to this slide again. 23a. So if you look at the very first position, all the three boys are there. Boy 3, boy 1, boy 2. Same position. All three are going in clockwise direction only. But if you look at second picture, you will see suddenly it's as if boy 2 is actually running backward. Or rather, boy 3 is running backward in an anti-clockwise direction. That will become more evident when you look at the third slide. Okay? If you see these two, relatively speaking, he is going backward. Even though he is actually going forward only. Does that make sense? This is exactly what happens when sun is actually going around Mount Sumeru in clockwise direction. But as far as the Kala Chakra is concerned, the relative motion is giving the appearance as if sun is going in the opposite direction. Just like here, boy 3, it's as if he's going in the opposite direction. Even though he's actually going in the forward direction only. But in relation to boy 1, it looks as if he is going back. That is how Shukadeva Goswami explains, simultaneously sun is going clockwise, but keeping Mount Sumeru on his right. But at the same time, it appears as if he is keeping on his left. Makes sense? So this is how, and this is just the different use case scenarios, so to speak. So this is how the apparent contradictory motion of the sun is reconciled here. Understand? Too much detail. I thought I'll go through the calculation of how sun and moon, they cover the zodiac at a certain time. I will let this idea or the concept sink in. I will come and touch it next week again. So then when I calculate it, you will see it clearly. Maybe it's for your homework. I'll start, but I'll come back to it again next week. So if you look at the, let's go forward. So this is slide 24, movement of sun. So you have earth and you have sun. And these are the different signs of the zodiac you see in the path which is traversed by the sun. We discussed it last week. Okay, this is of interest to us. Movement of sun. This is slide 25. Now this is Kala Chakra. Now sun is actually going in clockwise direction only, but it looks as if he is going in anti-clockwise direction. Now if you take this Kala Chakra, there are 12 compartments in this. So there is 6 here at the top and 6 more at the bottom, which is, they correspond to 12 different Rashis or the zodiac signs, okay, in this zodiac belt you see here. Now, how can we understand that sun takes 30 days to actually go past this? Now, there is a difference between, I'll see if I can simplify this. So, if you look on the board, let us say this is your Kala Chakra. So, usually if you take any point, there is 360 degrees around that point. So, one circle is 360 degrees, okay? So, if you divide it, it becomes 180, 180. Then I'm dividing this into 4 quadrant, which is 90 degrees each. Now, if I somehow divide this into 3, likewise this, as well as this. Mine is uneven, but you assume each one has the same distance, okay, same size. Each of these different sector. So if this is 360, I have divided it into 12, I hope 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, there is 12 here altogether. So in this 12, each, so there is 360 degree around the point, Each one of them, they correspond to 30 degrees. Understand? So this is Kala Chakra. Each one correspond to different zodiac signs. Let me put, okay, Gemini. You have Taurus. Is that Aries? Yes. So on and so forth. Okay, each one of them, they correspond to different zodiac sign. Each one of them, they correspond to also, this is 30 degrees actually. If you take this as 360 degrees. Understand? And this is Kala Chakra. They are mounted on the Kala Chakra and they are moving with the Kala Chakra. So the speed, this is like the aerial view. From there, from the top if you see, this is their positioning. Okay, from the top if you see, each one of their positioning, they cover. If you draw a circle around, like from the top, even if you go above, let's say pole star, from there you actually observe, keeping pole star in the center, and if you draw a circle, this is what you will see. Okay, so I'm looking at it from top of pole star, not on pole star, even above pole star. Let's say I'm looking from Maharloka. When I look down, this central point from there, this is Dhruva. Each one of those different ones, they correspond. Their positioning, they occupy, let's say 30 degrees in that angle. Does that make sense? Now, Kala Chakra goes in a certain speed. This is boy 1 going at a certain speed. Sun, it lags behind Kala Chakra 1 degrees every day. We saw here, it just goes little, it just about to cross, but it's still slightly back. That's 1 degree at the end of every cycle, which means every single day, it is lagging behind. Okay, little bit more. So if it lags behind 1 degrees every day, how long will it take for it to cover this whole section? 30 days. That's how the calculation is actually given, that it takes 30 days for sun to cover this distance. Which means 1 month. 30 days is 1 month. So every single month, what will happen? So let's say this is the starting point for Kala Chakra. It goes round. By the time this point goes around and then comes back here, it's 1 single day. But by that time, if sun had also started its journey from that point, it would be lagging behind by 1 degree. So it would have crossed only 29 degrees by then of the last sector here. At the end of second day, it will be there. Third day, it will be there. Can you see? Movement is as if it's going in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, so even though Kala Chakra is given in this position, the way how sun scales each one of these different zodiac is in that direction only, as if it's moving in that direction. But actually, that's not true. Relative motion is creating that illusion. Understand? So at the end of 30 days, sun would have covered this zodiac. Likewise, it keeps on going. So 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. Likewise, we have 12 different sectors. Multiply 30 by 12. How long does sun take to cover all the zodiac? 1 full year. How long does the sun take to cover one zodiac sign? 30 days. Understand? This is how the description is given in Bhagavatam. Now let's take moon. Just like how sun is taking at the end of every day, it is lacking behind the Kala Chakra speed by 1 degree. Similarly, moon, it lags behind Kala Chakra by 13 degrees every day. As I said, moon is much more slower than sun. But the beauty here is, now let's go with the same calculation. Let's say moon is starting at the same point as boy 1, which is Kala Chakra. At the end of first day, the Kala Chakra will be there. He would be at the starting point, no problem. However, moon would have lagged by 13 degrees. In other words, it would have scaled 13 degrees of this 30 degree sector. Does that make sense? At the end of second day, 13 plus another 13, it would have scaled 26 degrees. Plus little bit more day, it would have finished one zodiac already. Okay, giving us the illusion that moon is actually traveling faster. Actually, moon is spacing out. Moon is not traveling as fast as sun here. Do you understand? But retrograde motion is faster because it's lagging behind. It is scaling much more. So if you really want to know how long it actually takes for moon to cover, it's very easy to calculate with this one. Okay, it will take let's say 2.5 days or something, 2.3 days. That's how long it takes if you take 0.3. That's how long it takes for moon to cover one zodiac. Likewise, another 3 and odd days, it will cover another zodiac. And guess what moon does? By the end of 1 month, it covers everything. Just like how boy 3, he's matching with boy 1 at the end of like 10 rounds. Even though he has done only 9 rounds. You understand? So even though he has actually run or rather traveled at a much, much lesser speed, he still managed to cover. It still managed to cross. It still managed to scale this whole path by that time. Understand? So it's the relative motion as well as the retrograde motion or the lacking behind that speed, that backward motion. It's not really backward, but that relative backwardness. That's what is actually helping moon to cover it much more faster than sun. But sun is the faster. Sun is faster than moon, actually. You can see sun is actually lacking by only one degree, whereas moon is actually lacking by 13 degrees every day. Does that make sense? We'll come back to this next week again. Okay, so this is how description is given. So movement of sun, it will make a bit more sense now. Next time you see Kala Chakra, okay, so this is what it means, Kala Chakra. Kala Chakra is simply a circular orbit keeping Dhruva planet as the focal point and going at a certain speed. And what speed is that? This is the speed. It takes 1 day to finish. Okay, so the whole seasonal changes that we actually see, all days, months, weeks, it's Ghatikas, it's given Muhurta, it's given so on and so forth. One Muhurta is like 48 minutes. Okay, likewise you have so many minutes, like 30 Muhurtas in a day actually. Okay, like that. So each of these different units of time, everything is calculated based on keeping this as the reference point. Okay, how long does it take for Kala Chakra to start from a point and come back to the same point? So that is the reference. From there, the speed of sun is calculated. From there, the speed of moon is calculated. From there, you will also see how this is how they calculate the seasonal changes. This is how they calculate the movements, even different planets also. Understand? So that's how description is given. 5th canto is interesting. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is how movement of sun is given. So sun, as we were discussing in Mesha and Tula. So if you look at slide 25, or Aries and Libra, it's equinox. Equinox means that's the time when sun is in that particular zodiac in the year, then we experience what is called as the equinox. Equinox means the duration of the day and duration of night is same. Okay, at other times, then it increases and then it decreases actually, depending on what ayana it's actually going. Like for example, when sun is actually moving, remember this Kala Chakra is going in clockwise only, clockwise direction. However, sun, because it can't cope up with the speed of this wheel of time, it just keeps in its retrograde motion. It's not really retrograde, it's a slightly misnomer. It's a relative backwardness in its motion. Then it is able to cover. So when it actually goes from like Taurus, Gemini, Cancer like that, then the duration of the day, it changes to the duration of the night. And then it comes and matches again in Libra. Likewise, the opposite happens at the bottom when it goes from Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn like that. Okay, so this is how description is given. Season is calculated, everything is calculated depending on relative motion of these three celestial bodies, so to speak. One is the Kala Chakra or the wheel of time, and wheel of time and nakshatra speed is exactly same. Okay, all the nakshatras, they don't have independent motion, they just are mounted on top of the wheel of time, which means the time taken for nakshatra to start from one point and cross to the other point will almost match the same speed as wheel of time, like that. Okay? All right. 26, where are we with time? Okay. So this is 26, it will give you, now with this background information with bit more detail. Last week also we saw, it was little confusing. But now if you go through this slide in, or rather slide 26, it will make more sense to you. Okay, The one on the outer circle, they correspond to each one of the 28 different nakshatras or the lunar houses. Okay, you have Shravana, Dhanishta, Satabhisha, so on and so forth. So they correspond to different nakshatras. The one inside, it actually tells you about the zodiac belt as well as the corresponding month. Basically, that's all you need inside. It just gives more information about the nakshatras as you go inside, but you can skip that. If you go with the last one, last two, you will actually see, you will understand pretty much how they correspond to the Kala Chakra. Oops. Okay, so 27, it's just a simplified version of the same thing. So the one at the topmost rim, so to slide 27, the outermost circle, that correspond to different nakshatras. Like that on the one inside, they are the different rashis or the zodiac signs. Orbits of planets, we saw this one. This is just the vertical section. So you have the Mount Sumeru, then you have Sun, Rahu is there, then Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Saptarishis, pole star, then you have the remaining higher planetary systems. This is again simplified version here. This one will actually tell you. So Manasotara mountain, it's there. It says 100,000 yojanas. That's where the sun god is seated. So Manasotara mountain is 10K, 10,000 yojanas tall. Then there is 50,000 yojanas thickness of the track of wind. Then on top you have a chariot wheel. Okay. Now the sun god from the base of the wheel to where he is actually seated is again another 40,000 yojanas. So sun god is actually in effect is sitting from the bottom, from Bhumandala, he is seated 100,000 yojanas above. So you can understand that. Then you have Sumeru, moon, then you have the nakshatras, and then you have each one of the different grahas, and it goes all the way. Like that. Again, 30, similar photo. Now, 30A, it will give you a bit more understanding about the different planet's position, not necessarily the detail, but this is like the overall structure that it will give you. We'll go from the top. You have Satyaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka. This is 30A. Then you have Dhruvaloka. Below Dhruvaloka, you have the Saptarishi planets. And you can see each of these different celestial bodies attached to Dhruva planet. You know, like a line it's given. That's just a rope made of wind. Okay, prana, it's given. So each one of them, they are attached, and you can understand now like a merry-go-round. As Dhruva, keeping Dhruva in the center, Kala Chakra moves. So when Kala Chakra moves, everything, when time moves, everything moves. Okay. Dhruvaloka doesn't go around them. Dhruvaloka is just the focal point. Okay. Keeping that as the shelter, they are all going around, circumambulating. That's where Vishnu is. Shirodakashai Vishnu, that's where he is. So everyone is circumambulating around that. Then non-stop circumambulation throughout, like that. So then you have in Bhumandala, we were discussing on top of the different mountains, mountain ranges that's actually given. Then you see the 7 layers below the Bhumandala or inside Bhumandala. The below 7 planets, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala, they are situated right in the core of Bhumandala. Okay, it's like each one of those lokas, they are like a loka of cave people, basically. Okay, if you make a cave on the surface of earth and you go and live, and then somebody digs deeper and make another cave there. Somebody digs deeper, another one. That is how each one of the subterranean 7 planetary system is actually described. Okay, they are all underneath the surface, subterranean. They are inside earth, under Bhumandala. So Bhumandala is very, very thick. So each one, Bhumandala has different layers. Each one of the layer below Bhumandala, inside the surface of earth, inside the crust of earth, inside the crust of Bhumandala. So each one of them, they correspond to each one of those 7 subterranean planets. And then below that you see Anantasesh, and he's supporting in the middle, and you have the elephants, Gajapatis, who are there also supporting on the side. Description is given in Srimad Bhagavatam that those elephants, when the ones below, not the ones above, the ones below, when they are standing there, shouldering the weight of the entire Bhumandala along with the seven planetary systems, which means 8 planetary systems, they support that weight. It's mentioned that for Anantasesh, who is supporting the Bhumandala, he feels the weight of an atom. In other words, he doesn't even realize, where he is supporting. That's how powerful he is. But as far as elephants are concerned, the ones that are supporting on the sides of Anantasesh, they are holding it, but sometimes you carry something, you feel itchy. So you shake your shoulder like that. So likewise, when they shake, earthquake happens in Bhumandala. This is how earthquake is given. Earthquake is given the origin, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Whenever they shake, earthquake happens there. Because they are shaking the whole, bottom 8 planetary systems, so to speak. Then they are all supported on top of Kurma. So Kurmadev is there. So he is supporting them, Vayu Kurma. He is supporting all of the above different planetary systems. Anantasesh, basically Kurma, he supports the 8 planetary systems this way. And then below that, you have the Garbhodaka ocean. So this is how it's described here. This is 30A. Orbits of the planets, same way. So now again, 31, if you see, it will make a bit more sense now. You would definitely notice the slopy structure of Bhumandala. You would see now the position of Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala. So now it will make sense. Okay, so this is how they are still within this brown border, which means they are inside Earth. That's what it means. If you look at slide 31, it will make more sense now. Okay, so they are in the from central portion you can actually see it's going down, and each one of them, they are still within that earth crust only. And after Patala Loka is where the 28 hellish planets, which Srimad Bhagavatam actually explains, and Anantasesh, he supports the elephants are not depicted in this picture. Okay, I need to go for altar service, so I'll stop it here. Next week, we'll jump straight into Shishimara planetary system. Pretty much I've touched on different aspects of chapter 21 to 26 already. It's just a little bit more details. I still have some questions to answer. Devotees have asked. So if any of you have more questions, you can text me. So next week, I'll try to... There's a lot more things in this, actually. But as far as the scope of Srimad Bhagavatam is concerned, that should give you a good overview. I will do the entire summary again next week, and I will answer the questions, and I will touch on Shishimara a little bit, and we'll go into a bit more detail about the subterranean planets, like who lives where, who is getting worshipped, so on and so forth. Okay, we'll stop here. I thought I'll take it. I'm just remembering. I need to get ready for the service. Okay. Jagat Guru Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vranda ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari Bolam Vishnu. Hare Krishna. Just a quick announcement. So, starting from tomorrow, for the next 5 days, we'll be celebrating Julan Yatra.